Hello and welcome once again to the Dwarven Tavern. I am your host, Lyric, bringing you another review, and this time it is the continuation of the Polaris series with the core rulebook number dos, or number 2 if you don't speak Spanish. So this is a continuation of the series of the Polaris books. There are two core rulebooks of that series, as far as I have with me available. So I reviewed this one already, and you can check that out on our channel. So we're going to delve into this one. As far as I understand, the second core rulebook is a continuation of the first one, meaning it's not an expansion set, it's not an additional thing that you can get into. It's kind of like this, these two books together make the core rulebook that you would find in any other role-playing tabletop series. For example, the first book has the races and character creation game system, reading off the back of the book, and the setting overview. So basically, like, everything that you need to know to understand the world around you and to get your character rolled up. The second one is the technology and gear that you would have. This includes weapons and armor and vessels and the like. Rules for underwater combat and creatures. Ooh, my favorite part of any book. The advanced rules and introductory adventure. So this is kind of a part 2. I mean, it isn't kind of. It is a part 2 of the original core rulebook. So I like that and I don't like that. I like it because it doesn't spare any expense on any detail. I don't like that because it's not very, I guess you could say it's not very adaptable for travel. This is definitely a game that you play in your own basement and you don't take it anywhere else unless you want to carry a bunch of books with you. Which can be both bad and good because, again, there's no loss of detail in any of these books. But there is so much detail it might get watered down. Not necessarily even watered down, but it might get lost in the tide. I'm going to keep going with these puns. So what I'm trying to say is that Polaris is as detailed as it can possibly get, and I said in the first book that that's great, but the fact that they needed 2 core rule books might be an overload of information. Or an overflow of information. Oh, okay, so the first book had the same thing going on. The first, the cover is the cities and the communities, and the back cover is the nations, same as the first book. The chapters therein are they're a continuation of the first book, so it starts off as chapter 4, which is the technology, and then it goes to chapter 5 through 7 to complete the book. So chapter 4 includes gear, powered exo armor, submarines and vessels, and underwater combat. So let's check that one out. So chapter 4 is technology. This is gear that your character can use, gear your character can buy, gear your character can create, and it has the places therein of which you can buy these things, such as the legal or the black market. So it starts off delving right into the tools, and those are things like cables and ropes, grappling hooks, grappling hook launchers, communication, which it has a lovely table. Lyric's favorite thing about any book layout is tables. So it has tables all nice and neat for you to see all of this stuff laid out nice and neat. I repeat myself. Security, which includes code breaking and forged documents, ink canister, so on and so forth. Computer hardware and programs, because this is set into the future in a dystopian era. That doesn't mean that they can't have extremely advanced technology. They would almost have to for the genetic development that they have. And then, it even has the computer weight, which is very nice because a lot of people don't realize that some of the computer material does weigh a lot. So, and then it has availability, which is also very nice, because the better the computer, probably the less likely you are to find it, or make it, for that matter. And then it has just all of the information that to go along with the different tools and electronics and devices, so that you can, if you need to hack a computer or decode a system or get into a certain area undetected. It's all within this chapter. The first part of this chapter is the gear itself, and this is general gear. The next part is medical gear, and that's things like anti-infection patch or nanoprobes for whatever reason you would need them. Wink, wink, I guess. Then it has cybernetic and biological implants, because your character might need, I don't know, your character might be a mutation that has no eyeball and you want to have an eyeball. You can have it made. You can have an artificial replacement. And actually has a table right here for those replacements, be it eye, ears, arm, hand, leg, so on and so forth. Ooh, it even has organs like kidney and lung. It also has organic replacement, and this is like an actual eyeball instead of a mechanical eyeball being replaced into your body. So that's very cool. I like that a lot. The next part of this chapter is weapons and protections. This is weapons and armor, basically. It has melee and ranged weapons and their different charts. I'm not going to delve into much detail in this book. I spit all over it. I'm not going to get too in-depth with this book, because a lot of this is just information that you can search for your very custom-made character. So I'm just going to go over the brief touches, and if I find anything cool, I will point it out. But until then, we're just going to glance over everything to just give a layout of this book. So the melee weapons has a nice and neat table all onto its own. I love that. Very nice. And then the ranged, I think, yeah, it has bows and crossbows for the next table. So it even breaks up the types of weapons, aside from just being, like ranged and melee. It has ranged and it has melee and all these different types of ranged weapons, because the next table is firearms. So let's just glance at a few of these weapons, shall we? I don't know how the glare is going to work for this book. So there's just a few of the melee weapons. There's spears and truncheons. Yes. And then they have shields, and then their firearms, so on and so forth. So all the artwork is very nice and detailed, so that you can get an average glance about what these weapons are like. I say average because this is like, just examples of the weapons that are available to you. So it has like a heavy machine gun, a sniper rifle, so on and so forth. Oh, it also has underwater projectile weapons, and this is like spear guns and spear guns and spear guns and spear guns. A wrist launcher, and then it has super cavitating underwater weapons. This is like a mini cannon or a Gatling gun. Very, very big weapons that you can use to your advantage, and I assume all these weapons can be used underwater or out of water. That's very nice. All these weapons use the new super cavitation technology. The projectile has a special nose which, combined with high speed, allows it to create a bubble of gas around surrounding it that considerably reduces the friction with the liquid environment. Apart from increased range, these weapons can also fire at great depths. So this it has handguns too, because I was curious. I'm like, are these like ship-mounted weapons? I guess they could be if you really freaking wanted to. But I mean, some of these might have to be. But the way that they look, like the mini cannon shown here, it has what I assume is a stand for it to stand up on its own, meaning it's probably really huge. So, moving on. Then it has stun and sonic weapons, because there is a progression of technology. This is like infrasound cannon, neural disruptor, shock pistol, so on and so forth. The suspension of disbelief needs to be suspended at this moment. So then it goes to throwers, for example, canister thrower, flamethrower, gas vaporizer, so on and so forth. Just little details that can go on there. Then grenades and canisters, explosives. This is just a bunch of different weapons that you can use to your advantage. Then it goes to simple armor and protections. This is like, for example, a bodysuit or hydrating armor if you are a fish out of water. Kevlar armor, last chance pilot armor. If the fighter of a pilot is destroyed, this armor is a plastitanium fiber, can release at last chance fluid that can keep the pilot alive in a semi-catatonic state for 4 days. That's a really long time, actually. I was expecting like 30 minutes. The armor is equipped with a special underwater locator beacon. That's very cool. I like that a lot. And it's just a bunch of armor and shields and stuff like that, as you would find in the armor and shield section. Then it goes to drones. These are vehicles that are connected to a command center. A computer capable of ordering it to perform a number of pre-programmed tasks. And this is like medical drones or detector drones, combat drones, so on and so forth. Let's just take a gander at some of these drones real quick, just so you can see them all nice and pretty for you. Oh, and would you look at that, the next chapter. So this is Chapter 4, Powered Exo Armors. This is what your character would wear if they are, I don't know, if they need the extra brute strength or the extra speed. I assume this exo armor is just for physical things. Like fighting and the like. Then this section, the term armor refers exclusively to the mechanized exo-armors. I'm having a really hard time speaking today, and I don't know why. The heavy humanoid-shaped machines that are bulletproofed and insulated and whose movements are provided by an exoskeleton. Don't get them mixed up with the more common kind of armor, like bulletproof vests or safety gear, as described in the gear section, page 8. Technically, powered exo armors are comparable to vehicles. Therefore, they're basically, you can relate them more to being mechs than actual, like, physical armor, because they give you strength bonus or swimming bonus, or if you need to be jet propulsed. I don't even know if that's a word. It's probably not, but I don't really care. So this is like, it has light exo armor, heavy exo armor, so on and so forth. The individual, like, things that you need to know about it, like the movement, damage, stuff like that. Repairs and control systems. Oh wait, I'm into the next part. It says exo armor equipment. This is for if your exo armor has weapons or canisters of some sort. And these are like, they can be more related to being personalized ships, because the person who wears them is referred to as a pilot. That, and also has like life support in it, emergency systems. Yeah, this is like a computerized personal vehicle. Very, very tiny ratio of 1-to-1 mech. Is the best way that I could describe it to those who do not understand what an exo armor is. So, like, this gives you the extra punch that you would need. Also, since it has the extra strength, it can carry bigger weapons. And this is where those giant cannons that I was talking about in the last chapter come into play. Or not the last chapter, but the last section of this particular chapter. For example, it can have an electro claw, hydro drill, industrial drill, jackhammer, pincer or claw, neutron cannon, and many more things that it could have attached to it. So that's very nice. And then it outlines the actual exo armors themselves. So it has the light exo armor, which it has a bunch of those. Then it has medium exo armors and a bunch of those, which if you want a clearer image of that, if I can make sure that the glare doesn't get on it, I'm pretty sure it's going to be glared out regardless, but there's some of those. And then the heavy stuff, which that reminds me of the Big Daddy from Bioshock. If you have played that game or seen that game, it reminds me a lot of that, but a very well-developed Big Daddy that might have been in existence for a few hundred years. Yeah, definitely looks like that, and that's probably what my character would wear. The character that I mentioned from Big Dogs in the last review. So there's that. Then the next chapter part is submarines and vehicles. This is talking all about submarines and vehicles, what you can pilot, what you can drive underwater, what you can put on it weaponry-wise. This is just all of that particular information in this chapter. So let's give an example of what you can find in the depths of this world. Here are some beautiful examples. There's the Explorer, which is a tank-like submarine, or small merchant vessel is what it is. Then there is, let's just use a bunch of examples. Here are some other vessels that you can find. This is the Whitney, the Drakkar scooter. Drakkar, I don't know how to pronounce it. Oh, this one's cute. This one would be mine. This is the Seabed Rover Titan. It's adorable and I love it. And of course, a submarine on the next page. Then it has underwater fighting vessels like the Manta. Ta-da-da-da. Looks like one, sounds like one, is a Manta. And then lastly, the Trident, just for another example, a big-ass ship right there for you. So that's nice. Alright, then it goes into underwater combat. These are the rules for that. This is how you can fight underwater. And that's that. That's all there is to it. Again, I'm not going to get too in-depth with these, with the technical stuff of it, because we did do a lot of technical stuff in the previous book. This is just an expansion, or not an expansion, but a continuation of that. So I don't want to, bog you guys down with a bunch of numbers. But just to touch on it, there is basic modifiers for combat underwater. For example, sonar. This is a sonar modifier, whether it's distant or stationary, or the thing that you are targeting is going at a certain speed, so on and so forth. The other modifier on this is other detection modifier. For example, the target is inside or on the other side of a disturbance, such as the sea current, Polaris flux, so on and so forth. Just skipping through that last bit, then it goes to naval weaponry. This is the stuff that you probably have attached to your vehicle. So this is probably the stuff that you cannot carry with your own bare hands, or with your exo armor hands, depending on what you want to talk about. So, examples of naval weapons. In addition to torpedoes, vessels can be equipped with a lot of weapons like energy weapons, super cavitation guns, etc. These naval weapons will be explained in the technical guide supplement. In this section, you will find a few examples of energy weapons. So, I was right. That section that I was talking about before is handheld weapons, or weapons that you can stand up and then shoot. This is the stuff that you will find attached to your to your boats or to your submarines. I almost said to your torpedoes. Your torpedoes have weapons, is how badass you are in this game. That's pretty cool. I'm kidding. So torpedoes in this game are actually not just the weapons themselves. They are, as described in this book, fairly small underwater machines that move at extremely fast speed using compact, resistant engines capable of delivering a very high boost of power in a very little time, aka a few minutes, and that they are also equipped with highly efficient propulsion systems. There are many different types of models of torpedoes, each one with its own specifications, as outlined in the later half of this page. And then it says for example, the different torpedoes. There are 10 different torpedo marks. For example, Exo Armors up to Exo 4 is a mark of torpedo 1 through 3. Again, I said I wasn't going to get into a lot of those details, so I'm doing exactly that. So I'll just move on. Hopefully this will entice you to check it out yourself, because even with a lot of this information, it actually is pretty cool. So, then it goes to the speeds of torpedoes, torpedoes with blast warheads, torpedoes with armor-piercing warheads, so on and so forth. These are just a bunch of, the details that you would need to fight in a underwater battle. Chapter 5, the one that we have all been waiting for, is creatures. This is where it gets into what you will find in the deep. But also probably what you'll find in, I guess, the world above? I don't know, let's skip ahead a little bit. It touches on the creatures that you would find either in the ground or on the ground, but also, what you would find in the sea, of course, because that's where most of your adventures will probably be. So, the creature's abilities, damage, handling, and location. So this section is for the DM. I don't remember what it's called in this game. I guess the storyteller? I don't remember. I'm just going to call it the DM because that's what I'm used to calling it. Or GMs is what it's called in this game. I'm still going to call it a DM because it's a bad habit and I can't break it. So, this is like damage handling and location skills, movement of sea creatures, so on and so forth. Let's delve into the actual creatures. So it has things like the chameleon shark, the dolphin, killer conger, kraken squid, the stereotypical developed animals in a nuclear war, so on and so forth. Ooh, it's got mermaids, and I like the artistic liberty that the artist took on this mermaid. She does not have hands; she has fins, and I like that a lot. I like that. That's really cool. She still has tits. I don't like that. Why would she have boobies if she... Take a mammal. Take any mammal in the sea. Do any of them have boobs? The answer is no. I don't... If you have to take the artistic liberty to malform their face and hands and still give them hips and boobs, what is wrong with you? So I take it back. I don't like the artistic liberty that they took. Either keep her half human or make her this weird creature that is no longer distinguishable from human traits. She just has a human face. Because there's no reason for an aquatic mammal to have breasts. No whatsoever. So then it goes on to more what you would find in a normal seascape, such as moray eel or piranhas or a plated shark, which, piranhas? Why are there piranhas? There should not be piranhas in the open sea. If I recall correctly, piranhas were only found in the Amazon. I don't know. Things have changed in this world, that's for sure. So that might just be a little bit of a decision of belief. That's not a word. It might be a suspension of belief. Decision. I don't even know what I'm talking about anymore. So then it goes to amphibious creatures, and this is like the gorgar. I don't know how to pronounce that correctly. The Proteus, the Titan crab, Titan worm. Oh, here's a Proteus for you, for those who don't know what it is. There it is. There she blows. Or there he blows. It's a thing. Okay, then it goes to the creatures of the equinox, and this is ghostwires and gliders and a crawl hound. The creatures of the equinox. These particular creatures are developed within the city of Equinox itself. They haunt its slums and can cause problems for characters who are unaware of the dangers of the creatures of the creatures of the creatures. So that's cool. These are the creatures that you would find in the city if you are a slum rat, or if you walk along the area in the cities trying to survive. So that's cool. Then there are other creatures that you can find in other various places, such as the assassin larva, which is the thing that tried to kill Padme. Then there are burrowers, as was mentioned in the previous book. Although mankind has waged an ongoing war against these creatures for centuries, Still very little is known about their nature and society. Burrowers looked like bipedal bears with the face of a warthog. They maneuver within their subterranean realms with great ease. Their powerful claws, their excavating jaws, and their ability to release sonic waves that can shatter stone create the perfect organism for digging tunnels with very rapidly. The abilities above represent the average burrower. Some burrow priests are said to be capable of turning stones into magma. Priests, which means that they have a developed society. Which makes me wonder, is there a separate book all unto its own if you wanted to play a burrower? Because that is what I would be interested in. I love playing creatures, and I love playing abnormal creatures. So if I could have a book that would allow me to play the burrower, I think I would buy it in a heartbeat. Because I would love to play a creature that pretty much looks like a Minotaur. It doesn't have the face of a warthog, though. It just has a face. That's all I can describe it as, is just it has a face. So, moving on, it goes into a few more of the other creatures, which are just, strange amphibious creatures. Then it goes to Chapter 6, which is the advanced rules. So in book 1, it has basic rules that you can play so that you don't have to technically get this book. You don't really have to. But this is like if you want to have a lot of sea exploration in your game. And this is for example, character options. It has random mutations, skills, game mechanic, combat, state of health, equipment. So this is kind of still important information that you might have to have. So you can get a game started with this book, but in order to keep a game going, you need this book. So you can test it out at Gen Con or something, see that you like it, get the book there, and then later on visit your bookstore and get the second half. But it might come in a nice and neat, this was a book sleeve that contained both of them, so it'd probably be cheaper to just buy it as the two set than to buy them separately, So, advanced rules include random mutation, latent and uncontrolled Polaris, random professional advantages, such as if you are an assassin, bartender. So this is, the professions are for advanced classes for Dungeons and Dragons and the like. So this is pretty cool. This is if your character has leveled up enough to earn these characters. For example, the naval officer or navigator, every 2 years roll a 1d10 on the following list instead of allocating your 5 automatic professional advancement points or advantages points. For example, enhanced attribute, decoration or accomplishment, fellowship, good year, so on and so forth. Then the next part is experienced characters, disadvantages of the characters. It is often easy for players to take disadvantages so they gain extra points but without real consequences. And most of the time the GM has better things to do than memorize the list of disadvantages for the player character, so she can put them into scenes as she likes. The solution? The carrot and the stick. In other words, rather than giving the GM the responsibility of managing the PC's disadvantages, let the players do it themselves like big kids, with the little encouragement thrown in. They can decide of their own free will to bring in their character's disadvantages. For example, a player whose character suffers from a phobia should not hesitate to remind the DM about it. Yes! I agree with this very much. Be annoying about your disadvantage. Throw it in your DM's face if you must. Because a lot of the times, even DMs or GMs don't want to deal with it. They don't want to revolve their carefully crafted story around a person who may be suffering from a phobia or maybe suffering from a loss of limb, so they cannot go through these particular things as easily as a person who is able-bodied. So it's much easier to have the cookie-cutter characters than to have a systematic development around these characters, which, as far as I know, the Dwarven Tavern is really good for this. I am really good at, because disadvantages are one of my favorite things about games. I like to think that the DMs here at the tavern are really good for this. But I have had several friends and several, I guess, coworkers who are really bad at... I've been guilty of this too. Forgetting the disadvantages, really bad for that. But working it in my campaigns, I always make sure to do that. Some way or some... Actually, now that I think about it, if the DM keeps it a cookie cutter situation and the character has a disadvantage of which this cookie cutter situation cannot be molded into, that actually might be even more realistic, because a person who is not able-bodied has to deal with those situations in real life. They have to deal with, like, for example, if they're in a wheelchair, they might not be able to go up steps. If they're blind, they might not be able to understand pop culture to the degree of which it is, such as memes. So to have a cookie cutter situation is, I mean, that's okay, but for a DM to be angry at the player for having a character with a disadvantage, I think is where the line is crossed. So if you have a character with a disadvantage and you forget, don't get angry at them because you keep forgetting their disadvantage. Be understanding is the best way that I can put it. So Lyric's number 2 rule is always communicate. Always make sure that you talk to your DM and make sure that they understand that your character has a disadvantage. So, stepping off of my soapbox, moving on. Then it goes to setbacks. For example, if there is an accident or looting or mutilation, so on and so forth, and the different descriptions of the setbacks. Ooh, a nice little wanted poster for a random character who probably looks like a character that I would roll up. So on and so forth. Then it goes to skills. And these skills are, for example, maximum skill level, optional rules for breathing and hybrid skills, optional skills in general, supporting skills. Then it goes to game mechanics, such as teamwork and luck, Polaris incidents, combat, which has phases and how to actually make the combat happen, combat modes, and morale, which is an extremely overlooked part of any sort of game, because morale used to be a very big part of tabletop role-playing, and then after 3.5 or 3rd edition of D&D, it kind of phased out of the game altogether. It might be brought back in 5th edition. I haven't played it yet, so I rolled up a character, but I haven't played it yet. So I just haven't had the time, unfortunately. This is a very nice spin on the book. A very nice addition to the series is the morale. So this is, for example, when should you pay attention to the combatant's morale? The answer is simple. When the GM considers that the current confrontation is particularly stressful or even scary. Here are a few examples. If you're wounded, if you find yourself under heavy fire, if you are a victim of a sudden or particularly intimidating attack, or if you lose a commanding officer, that would be extremely terrifying. What to do in that situation. And then it has an example of what to do. For example, the DM or GM can also award bonuses depending on the character's history if, the character has, accepts these consequences and carries them in a very delightful manner. Delightful is not the word I wanted, but that's the one I'm going with right now. So, for example, 1 to 3, this is a roll 1d10 and up, the failure modifier on the following table. For example, 1 to 3 is boo. The character yells and jumps because of the stress. He suffers a penalty of -3 or -3 on all his actions for 1 combat round. That's, you just got startled, so of course you're going to take a subtraction for that. Everyone to the defensive stations. Run. I'm scared. I'm panicking. 15 and over is ah. I like that one. As well as panicking, see above, that I haven't gotten into. The character has a fainting spell and has to pass a shock resistance test with a penalty of -10. That would be my character, definitely. I would really go, passes out. I am now useless to this battle. That would be my character. Adrenaline and intimidation, fighting spirit of NPCs and creatures, and that is it for that. Then states of health. This is if you're wounded or your wounds are worsening, the after effects of such wounds, hyperventilating, fatigue, so on and so forth. I don't want to skip over all of that. Other types of damage, damaging thresholds, and that's that. So equipment is the last part of this chapter. This is like the wear and tear part of the book. Permanent loss of integrity, damaging simple armor, so on and so forth. Oh, and then it has a nice little table with technological leaps, as in... I shouldn't have skipped over it. Device is characterized by the base technological level, or TL, the level at which it is normally built if one wishes to build the same device by using a higher TL. So this is what you can do to better your weapon. If it has been damaged, but then you find better material for it, you can make advancements on it. And this is a table, nice and neat, all laid out for you to make sure you understand what you can do when that happens. Chapter 7, Adventure, and this is the last chapter of this book. Havoc on Erminger. Erminger. Okay. I don't want to know how they came up with that name. So, the GM introduction. This is when your character, or when the GM introduces the scenario. Then it goes to player introduction. Whether it's you as the GM introducing the characters, or, the GM just says, okay, you're all in the same room, what do you do? This is when you all go up and talk to each other and the like. And this is just a brief description of what happens and what to do just to get you started. This is a basic scenario that can help your characters get started if you're unsure of where to start. So, and then Erminger Station. I'm Erminger, I'm gonna call it. Erminger, I can't pronounce it without thinking, oh my god. So, that is the station of where to find it. And then lastly, the appendix. This is where you have all of the different character sheets for your armor, your vehicle, your creature sheets, the non-player character sheets. That's a nice inclusion. A lot of people don't think to make those. And a lot of time, you have an NPC who later turns to a PC. So, that would be a very cool thing. And then lastly, So, that is the second core rulebook of the Polaris series. I really enjoy the amount of detail. I said before that it could be a little cumbersome, but I actually do really enjoy the amount of effort that they put into this series. And I can't actually detract any points for that. That they made it 2 books, and they took the time and the effort to make this a very convoluted series. And I say convoluted because I can't find a better... Meticulous. It's a very meticulous. It's a very meticulous series. They put a lot of effort and a lot of time into this book, and a lot of detail into the individual parts and all of the tables. That has to take a lot of time, and it's a lot of effort. So I can't look at that as a bad thing. I definitely can't. And as much as it would suck to lug these around, if you have a Polaris campaign, I have to say it would be worth it. The back-breaking effort that one has to put into writing these books, I think it should deserve the time and the effort to play it. So, that being said, I liked all of the individual unique aspects of the book, from exo armors to combat to creatures to the societies there of the world. Like, everything in this book is so well thought out. It's so complicated, but in a very intricate and beautiful way. And I have to say, I can't give this a bad score. I have to give this a 5 out of 5. So the second core rule book gives a 5 out of 5 from the Dwarven Tavern. It's just, I can't explain it as well as it needs to be. Tried to go through it as fast as I possibly could, and this is still a very long review. I didn't want to leave out any of the important details. I hopefully didn't skip over anything that was extremely important. If I have, please comment below if you've played this game. If you haven't, go do so, because this is definitely going to be worth your time and effort. I would definitely dive in and see what you could find. There are 2 puns in that one. But until then, I would like to hear from you if you think that this review is accurate. If you have played this game and have created your own characters and have, delved into the depths of this particular world, please comment below. I would love to hear it. I'm done with the puns, I promise. But until then, the Dwarven Tavern gives it a 5 out of 5 for both of these books. Please check them out. And on behalf of the entire cast and crew of the Dwarven Tavern, I am your host, Lyric, once again bringing you a review. And we wish for you to want for nothing but adventure. And at first I feared it, then I charged. Or delved. I don't know. I'm so tired of using that word. So, thank you guys for watching, and we will see you next time.